I'm imagining unfairly lots of people going, oh, this is wonderful, it's a lovely day. How, or are there really hard-nosed analytical people in there?
Oh my goodness, the devil's in the data.
Oh, you've been transformed.
Data decide do.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the UnEDited podcast with me, your host, Ed Gould. So today's a little bit different, isn't it always? Yeah, I think it is. But today's about the theatre and the arts, and we've got a brilliant guest lined up for you. Robin Hancox is the leader for marketing for the Mayflower Theatre. And the Mayflower Theatre is a very unique institution, and it's a very old friend of mine personally. I cut my teeth doing arts marketing many years ago, and this was one of the first companies I worked for a long time ago. And what I love about the Mayflower Theatre is that it has two spaces within its home city, one of which is a receiving house, and it's one of the largest receiving houses or theatres in the UK, which means it can bring West End big brand name shows out of the West End to the city, Southampton, where the Mayflower is based. But it's more than that. It's also a producing theatre. It has a space in the centre of the city, which really is dedicated to building new audiences, helping people explore new art and new theatre ideas, helping writers develop. And so you really have an organisation that's not just entertaining, but it's also helping the industry and the communities of which it serves. So today's unedited conversation is really interesting if you're in arts marketing, but it's more than that, because I think every single one of us is desperately trying to build audiences. And what the art market brings us, and certainly the theatre market brings us, is an absolute pinpoint focus on audience building. And Robin will spend a lot of time talking about the tactics and the strategies that they employ to identify audiences, which help them shape their product and shape their marketing and their communications approach. So it's really interesting for arts people in the arts, but also in any business that's trying to develop, nurture and keep long-lasting audiences for your products and services. So listen on to the end to find out more about some of Robin's most personal and wonderful successes within this space. And also we get into all things arts and theatre marketing from a long history in my life of getting involved in such stuff. So I hope you're going to enjoy the conversation. I also wanted to touch base with you, my dear listeners, to say thank you for all of the support you've been giving us. Lots of you getting in contact with suggestions about who and how you want us to progress with the podcast. But I encourage you to do more. If you want to be part of the UnEDited podcast, if you think that you have something interesting to share, then get in touch. You can find us online at the website, or you can get in touch through our social channels, which I hope by now, if you're listening, you have subscribed to. Anyway, that's enough of intro blabber. So are you ready? Shall we sit back, relax, and let's get ready for another unedited conversation?
So, Robin, thank you so much for joining us in the Black Box studio here today.
It's a pleasure. Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
I mean, some of our listeners out there will only be listening and they may not have ever watched the actual VOD, but this is live together in the flesh. I can see you. I can see the pores of his skin. It's a real thing. It's a wonderful thing.
Glistening with sweat as I prepare for all the questions you're going to give me.
So, theatre, the arts, that's what today's going to be about. And before I ask you to do your intro, to contextualize this a bit, I know Robin from way back. And many years ago when I didn't have as much grey hair, I cut my teeth in arts marketing, really. And so it's something that I'm quite passionate about. And I'm really excited that Robin's here today. But I'm going to let you tell us a bit about yourself, what you do, how long you've been doing it, what organisation you're in. Go for it.
So I work for Mayflower, and we have 2 venues in the city, which not many people know about. That the fact that we've got the theatre and the studios. We took over the studios during COVID. Great idea. But me personally, I'm from Birmingham originally. And when I was young, I joined a youth theatre. And at that point, I was in sixth form level. And at that point, I thought, I really want to work in theatre. I really want to work in theatre. I can be an actor. I can be the next, etc., etc.
The next what? Who were you aiming for?
Oh God, just
Pierce Brosnan?
I just wanted to sing on the stage.
I just want to sing and act and dance.
Yeah.
Triple threat.
Yeah. And then obviously went to university and studied drama and theatre and TV, and then left university and didn't go into the arts at that point. It was oh God, what can I do at that point? Because there is so much talent out there to move into the arts, and you have to work and be lucky to get into the industry. So yeah, I went off and did other things. Worked for a newspaper, worked for the Hampshire Chronicle, Daily Echo, and worked on newspaper sales, which involved marketing and trying to sell the actual newspapers into news agents and expand the reach of an audience that way. At the same time, I did reviewing of shows for the newspaper, so still had the hand in with theatre and just still getting my fix of theatre, and then got to a point where I thought I need to get out and move on, because I'd worked in theatre, I'd had these theatre skills, I had the training there, and then had developed marketing skills within the newspapers. So I fell into a role which was the press officer for Mayflower Theatre, and that was 18 years ago.
A lifetime ago.
Yeah, and it's flown just by. I'm not going to snap my fingers. That's going to go straight in the microphone. It's flown by just like that.
Yeah.
And it's I love what I do. I've always loved what I do. I've my friends always say, "Oh, you really love what you do," and they've been through various different careers and different job roles, and they all say, if you won the lottery tomorrow, you'd still go back to work on Monday, wouldn't you?
You're one of those weirdos.
Of course I would, yeah.
One of those weirdos. And I know that that's the case because I've worked with you long ago in the past, and I think everyone in that industry, you've got to be in love with it. I mean, you've not mentioned one point, which is how competitive. If you think about the people that make it, in inverted commas, in the sort of front of camera piece, they're a 0.1% of all the people that have ever thought about they might have talent.
Yeah, there's a big
but
queue
that's
behind
only
them.
the front. That's just the front-facing stuff. Think of all of the back of house, and COVID was a real clangor for all of that, because the industry as a whole is a challenging industry. I know from experience, but what it might help to do is contextualize for our listeners. The Mayflower's kind of unique, and it's based in the Mayflower's in my home city, or our home city for our agency, Southampton in the UK. And there aren't that many producing theatres. There's they've had a hit over the years. But can you tell us a bit about the unique points of the Mayflower and the fact that you've got the Mast studios and the Mayflower receiving house?
Yeah, so Mayflower Theatre is we refer to ourselves as a presenting house. We present, we choose what we have on our stage, as opposed to there's loads of stuff coming down the line that we just want to put their show on at the theatre. And we frame ourselves as we're an empty box. And the production,
and it's a big box,
it's
isn't
a big old box, 2,270 odd seats in the theatre, and with, I think, the third largest theatre in the UK.
Yeah.
So there's lots of bums on seats, which is my job too.
Yeah, no pressure.
just a bit every single night. But yeah. So all those shows we present them, and I mean the theatre's got a history itself where it was originally the Empire Theatre and then became the Gaumont, and
this was the Beatles play, or the Rolling Stones,
rock and rolls,
and
yeah.
all of that sort of stuff.
Laurel and Hardy trod the boards. Julie Andrews made her first stage appearance on our stage as a little girl with her parents, but many years ago.
So it's got this heritage.
It's got a pedigree, heritage within the city. And then it was then through the rock and roll years, some shows would come in, but you'd have like Genesis and the Stones and Beatles would perform there, etc. And then in the 1980s, it was run by Rank, and they wanted to kind of get rid of their estate and then turn it into a bingo hall. That's when the people of Southampton did what they do best and rallied behind it and said, no, we can't have that. We can't have that. We need to keep our theatre. And that's why it's so special, because the people of Southampton made that happen.
And Southampton's funny in that respect. There's a few occasions where I can think of, there was something called Immigration Street that they tried to film down here, and the people of Southampton said, "Nah, you're not doing that." And there was a couple of other occasions. So for a fairly small city, it's got a lot of punch, and there's a lot of assets to the city. But I think if you asked anyone, the Mayflower would sit very much in the centre of those assets. My memory of working years and years ago with you is bringing the West End to Southampton, and the fact that you've got such a huge stage, some of those shows like The Lion King, and physically you're able to do things that other places can't. Is that correct?
Every show can come to us, and
and more,
and more. It's just like how big can we get, and what's the new technologies that are coming in with touring products. We constantly have invested in the building to be able to take these products, and we see ourselves, we're only custodians of that building, and it's our job to leave that legacy so that building is carried on for the next generation. That's our role.
And you've got the huge Mayflower Theatre that we know and love, and then through COVID, as you just touched on, the backstory of Mast. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Mast? Because it's a different proposition, but one that I think is almost of more value to community in some respects. But tell us a bit about what Mast does.
I mean, absolutely. And during COVID, unfortunately, it was NST, North Southampton Theatres, and it closed down during the lockdown, and the Arts Council and the City Council, wanted that. It's a brand new space to have, with 3 spaces inside. There's a 420 seat theatre, there's a 120 seat studio, there's a rehearsal space in there,
and it's really high quality theatre space, like really cutting edge stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, really modern and really great. And so we were approached a couple of times, and then eventually Michael, whilst our chief executive, Michael was sat in the garden, thought, we're going to do this. And then he phoned the FD and said, shall we go for this? And during COVID, we thought, let's open a new business.
What was when you heard that you'd gone from having to survive COVID with 1 location to then 2, what was the initial reaction of the team when you found out that it was expanding in that way? Because it's physically, for context for our listeners, it's not that far away, but it is a distance away. It's not right next door, and it's a different type of space, different type of shows, different type of proposition.
I mean, apart from, first of all, you take a breath, and then you go, right, that's the next challenge. Isn't that exciting? What else can we do? As a theatre, Mayflower Theatre is a presenting theatre. We co-produce our pantomime. We launch productions from the theatre, but we're not a big producing house like other theatres around the country. So we can't produce on a large scale ourselves. We can invest in productions and co-produce, but the smaller space offers the opportunity to create work, develop artists, and bring something to the community.
This is the thing that I'm most excited. And just so I've said it, because I haven't seen you in quite some time, really, but it was such a good decision for Michael and the team to do that, because the lack of arts within a city, if you look around the UK and you look around the world, I would expect there to be similar patterns. Investment in arts is low. It's hard to get people to engage. However, if you asked everyone agrees that the arts is a great thing. So when people actually put their money where their mouth is and do something about it, it's a brilliant thing. I assume now you now have this proposition that is this highest quality, the biggest shows that anyone's gone to see come here to the Mayflower. Been doing it well for a while, and we've now got Mast, where you've got writers, you're able to engage with the community, you're able to do all of that. In the industry, is that a normal thing? How do the industry dynamics of theatre and arts work nowadays? And if you were briefing me, which you are, I'll be your agency. You're saying, look, this is what you need to think about. What really goes on with the industry, and how does Mayflower sit within that with partners and other people? How does that work?
Mayflower is well known through the industry, and the theatre has got its history. We are unique in the way that we have set up the organisation. Other venues may have a studio space or have. I'm trying to think of offhand, but I can't think. So Plymouth has TR2. Birmingham Hippodrome has the Patrick Centre, where
and they're community-focused studio spaces.
Yeah, so they'll use those as well. So we thought, what can we do that brings across the Mayflower values, the way that we work as an organisation? Yes, we're a charity, but we every charity has to be commercial, and it's that thing of people perceiving.
This is one of the big challenges. You're a charity, but for me to get a ticket, some people go, "That's very expensive to go to the theatre." But then the cost of putting on one of, like, if you have the Lion King, right? And if I get this wrong, tell me off. But from memory, from back in the days, the margin is very low on a per seat. You're talking about a couple of quid or something like that, or whatever. It's a tiny margin. So the difference between a night being a success or an absolute loss, there's not a lot in it in some instances. Is that a fair statement to how that receiving house or the production house works?
Yeah, you've got your ticket price, which is a lot of the ticket price goes towards putting on that production for the producer. So the producer takes that percentage there. And as venues, we take a very very small percentage, but all the money that we take is reinvested back into the venue, and also enables us to do all of our participation work, which we'll come on to a little bit later. So everything we do, we generate surpluses, which then go back in, and we're unique that we have been very successful in producing these surpluses to be able to reinvest. We in 2018, just before the pandemic, we refurbished the auditorium and added,
just in time.
Yeah, it was great. But the large majority of that, we did some fundraising, but also that came out of our own surpluses, so that we could actually put that back in. Again, we are custodians of that venue. We have to keep the upkeep. We have to make it viable for our local community to come and see theatre, to come and see great productions.
We spoke on a conversation just before this about the fact that some of these shows will go to multiple different places, and they'll only be able to happen. So when we think about pure marketing, the proposition and the product of what you guys have got to play with, it's actually a collaborative effort to even me to be able to go and see whatever the show is in one place, because for it to stand up, it has to tour around a number of places. Is that?
Yeah. I mean, if you're working if you had a show you want to take on tour, how does that stack up? How can you make the money work from the initial investment to the ongoing costs? So you look at across the country. There's you might have a 3-month tour, 6-month tour, but you've got to be able to place it in the venues that are going to make you the money. And there are smaller venues that you still need to go to, but they may not make the money that week. So you may go from Belfast to Southampton, and where you got a 900 seat theatre compared to 2,500 seat theatre. You can obviously see the maths there.
Yeah.
To get the same return for the running costs of your production. Say it's $100,000 a week.
So the Mayflower must be a popular with the producers.
The producers love coming to our venue,
because they can tick off a lot of seats.
Yeah.
In one hit.
And in our programming team, we're planned up until I think 2029 at the moment. So there are pencils of shows.
There is a lesson to us all. Listeners, how far are your marketing and business plans running to? So programmed, set in stone, contracted, or do the contracts come later? Or
they come later, but because you have to build tours, and you have to build, and the ideal tour is that you start in Scotland and work your way down the country. That doesn't happen because of all the other shows that I want to tour around. So we'll have going from Southampton to Edinburgh, and you think
and then back to Winchester,
and then back, up and down the country, and that's why people often really wonder, what happens at the end of the show on Saturday night. We've got Greece on at the moment because we're talking in November. What happens to Greece on Saturday night? Okay, well, as soon as the curtain comes down, that show is then loaded straight onto a truck, and then off it goes overnight to the next venue. Meanwhile, we've got a show coming in on Sunday, and that gets put together Sunday morning whilst the crew have done an overnight, ready to open Sunday night, and then that goes out Sunday, and then we've got a brand new week-long show coming in the following day.
An industry that's dependent on logistics,
movement,
partnership, movement, relationships, and then the other side of it, which I'm really keen to get on with to you with, is the other side, that audience side, and the challenges of evolving audiences, and the fact that I'm trying to. So I thought when I came in, I was driving in, I thought, I better make sure I check when I last went to the theatre, and it was with my son. And when you're thinking about audiences and you're thinking about the behaviour of individuals, you've got theatre lovers, you've got these different tribes that come out. Can you talk to us a bit from a marketing point of view of how you first of all program for the right audiences and how that's evolved, and then maybe we'll get on to how we market to those audiences and nurture them. So you were touching on programming. I mean, I guess the wrong program.
Yeah. I mean, we're all based on what product is available. So, we have, from a marketeer's point of view, we have the brands of our own venues. We've also got a new brand, a new product in every single week, every other night. So you're having to then change your messaging, change your audience that you're going to, and use all the various different marketing methods to reach that different audience. Within programming, we want to have a balanced program through a calendar year, where you have, for the theatre, it's a couple of blockbusters. We have drama, we have musicals, which is the bread and butter for Mayflower. We have the pantomime, lots of dance, opera, etc. So,
have you noticed anything shift? You've been there long enough now. I mean, and we won't speak ill of anyone in the past, but I can remember a very different programming approach, where Jim Davidson seemed to turn up a hell of a lot, and there was very set. Have you seen things evolve in programming? Are there thoughts that when Michael Ockwell, the CEO, has come in and he's changed stuff up, were there assumptions on programming that haven't played out and the audiences aren't there? What's your read of what you need to program in order to fill those seats?
Well, we have to listen to the audience, and we also see the audience voting with their feet, whether they're going to come or not. And we want to have a successful program. We also want to have the very best of what is out there. We try to have the highest quality, and that's a challenge, and that has changed.
What's an example of something you don't do now that you might have done in the past? Or that you do that you didn't do in the past?
We when Marco came in, he's passionate about dance and contemporary dance, and for a big theatre to have contemporary dance on stage, we all thought, you must be mad.
How the hell am I going to sell
this?
I was an actor, not a dancer.
and we thought, okay, but we planned it out. We start off small. Let's grow a dance. How do we grow a dance audience?
Appearances, limited nights or whatever.
Small amounts of dance. Build it. Have the blockbuster, but have that regular product coming in, so that it's not just a one-off. Because if you have something that's successful, okay, we've done it. Move on. But you have to build that audience and then bring them through their journey, and give them what they want. Bring people in to experience new things.
How do you get the feedback loop? Is it just no one turned up, or do you do any sort of research, conversations? I mean, I've noticed you stood on the door, so you're literally, as people come in, everyone does everything, because it's thin margins and volunteers are involved as well to deliver some of the front of house, I think. Is that correct?
We've got volunteers at the studios on front of house and full-timers.
So is there any other mechanisms as a team that you use to sort of a barometer test, or is it clear as mud when you put something on and no one buys it? You go, okay, that's... What's the decision-making process?
It's very clear. We send out surveys after every performance, so that we have that constant feedback coming in from our audiences to understand what.
And you're hearing the chatter in the foyer.
Yeah. You can really gauge. I mean, you can stand at the back of the auditorium and know what that audience is going to be like.
You've got an advantage over other types of businesses there. I mean, there's many of my, I'm thinking about lots of the organizations I work for, the listeners, you might be in an organization. How connected are you to your audience? And, you have this great advantage that you're literally stood, and you can, if they come out and go, that was rubbish, wasn't it? We know, and you can adjust it on the fly as well, I guess, to a certain extent. So that's really, but I know that audience building is a subject. It's a specialist subject within this space. So can you talk to me a bit about, from a marketing standpoint, how you go about building an audience, nurturing an audience, evolving to their needs, generating sales from them?
Yeah, I mean, with an audience, there is an audience lifespan. We know that ticket buyers are generally from 35 up, mainly female, and then they will buy tickets all the way through until they fall off the other side. And we know that you need to fill that bucket back up again, and that's investing in the youth. And that is what our prime focus is bringing in younger audiences to be the future theatre ticket buyer. And the work that
And has that always been thus? It's always been the
No,
problem.
it's always been a challenge. But now it's kind of that realization that we, prior to Michael coming and joining the company, we engage with a few hundred people a year through engagement and participation. In this past year, we've engaged with 39,000 people.
Wow.
Young people.
That have experienced an activity, a workshop, or
came to see a show, had a Q&A.
And from all different places or across the region?
Across the region, yeah. So bringing that young audience in so they have an engagement with theatre from a young age. And
so there's a win there from a social point of view. I guess there's a win there from a funding point of view for you, because that justifies Arts England or similar funding for. But there's also, from a marketeer's point of view, it's the right thing to do, because you get them hooked early. I mean, I loved getting involved with theatre for the sake. I did Amdram as a kid, and I went, oh, that was fun. I like that. So when I got the opportunity to work for the Nuffield and work for some of these other theatres and the Point, it felt exciting and different and vibrant.
Yep.
I guess as I've got older, we all sort of, maybe I'm out of the as you've just said, the perfect demographic, and I'm thinking, who buys all the tickets in our household? And it's it's Jill Gould. It's my mum, and she buys them for my son and us, and she takes us and she keeps us going there. So that cradle to grave, well, I wanted to mention grave within a couple of seconds of Jill Gould, but yeah, it's that idea of how we can have that relationship all the way through. So what levers can you pull? You've got the participation at one end. What then happens on that journey?
It's moving them through the funnel. It's that initial engagement for them to work on. We have various stages of youth going into participation. We have youth theatre. We have a new scheme of student nights where it's tickets for a tenner for if you sign up to the student night scheme if you're 16 to 18-year-olds. So they're coming regularly, and we're building that base. Universities come in.
Have you noticed in the last? Sorry to interrupt, but you've just touched on something. I wonder if there's been a shift when students now there is less drinking going on. There's less clubbing going on. Have you noticed in your 18 years a shift on those? Because I can remember trying to shift those student tickets. Way back in the day, they were funded, and it was quite a hard sell. Have you noticed that change? Are the audiences more regular in those student things because they're looking for something to do that's not going out getting hammered? And
yeah. I mean,
that's interesting.
They want to come along, and it's always a challenge where you have they're a transient audience. So they have, if in a university they have 3 years, and then they'll be off. Some will stay, but we'll touch them, and they'll have had an experience with us.
Yeah. And that will add value wherever they go. They might still invest in theatre, and that's part of the
it's the whole ecology of the
ecosystem of the arts.
And this is where we join in with the other big venues and the art and UK theatre to lobby the government to invest in the arts at a young age, because the impact of arts on people is transformative. It helps with all the other subjects in education of across English, maths, etc. That there is an element of learning that people do when they experience things in real life and come off them phones and computers to see things on the stage, and that's it's massive.
What are the hardest to reach sort of audiences, and is there more emphasis on trying to? Do you take a view of, look, I know where my heartland is, or is there a view of these are really hard to get? we need to do that from a social responsibility point of view. Is that coming into the planning of how things are done and the programming and the marketing?
Yeah, we absolutely want to diversify our audience as much as possible, and using the word diversity in its broadest sense.
Yeah.
So,
Ethnicity, background,
Yep.
sexuality, all of those
Yeah.
things.
So, and that's partly providing the program that people want to come and see, and not being very niche with that. Not by saying this is a specific program for you. This is it's because people will want to see The Lion King. They want to see Joseph. They want to see Mary Poppins. They want to see anything we've got on our stage. So it's having that available program, and from our point of view, from my point of view, is having the right ticket prices. So there is a range that's of affordability within there as well, and having the right discounts in place, and knowing at what point we need to turn from a general marketing strategy into we need to fill the venue.
I think one of the things I observed over the years is that the brand challenge, and I think with Mast, where it's your shows, you're doing it, there's an easier play. But I thought that there's a challenge for a theatre where you're selling the show, and how you gently develop. So for a long-standing theatre like the Mayflower. The Mayflower name's well known in this city, in this region, I think, tick. But if I was trying to start a theatre, I can't imagine how you would develop that brand. Are there activities and strategies that are designed to develop the theatre's reputation rather than the show? Because obviously most of the money, if I've got £100 of my marketing budget and I'm going to cut the cake, all of it's going on to show promotion, I'm sure, or the majority. How do you guys tackle, is it a necessity to build equity in the core brand? How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, absolutely, because we need to build the experience, the wraparound of the show. It's
so my welcome, the food I get.
What's that customer journey like from the moment they experience what's coming up to they go onto the website. We invested into a new website earlier this year, and we knew that we were at the end of life from a previous one where everyone was like, I hate what we've got. So
it's always a clue.
Yeah, you kind of get that. To make that's the journey through ticket buying as smooth as possible, and then and a nice, we are selling, at the end of the day, we're selling a promise of a good afternoon, good evening, and that's it. You don't get your product until you actually walk through the door and have that experience.
By that, could we assume that the experience is the Mayflower brand piece, and that's transferable from one? Because I had a good time last time I went. That's that sort of vibe you're trying to get.
Absolutely. Yeah. We want to have return bookers. And
do you use like I don't know? Do you use like audience reviews? Do you use Are there ways of echoing that back into your market, and how do you approach that?
Yeah, I mean, every show it states that we have now social media, the amount of feedback that we have coming back up, then that's then pushed back out to because the best form of advertising we have is word of mouth.
Yeah,
somebody sees a show, I've enjoyed myself, it's great, you must go and see it. We'll have the traditional, we'll have the billboard out and the targeted segmented email going out and the mailing, etc. So we'll have all those pieces in place, but we know that it's going to be that either I want to see the show or I've heard somebody who saw it, and they'll come along. And that's great because
that's where
we
have
the
new stuff as well, the new people as well, I guess.
And we're lucky that we have a product that is not a conservatory door that you want to buy once in a while. This is a discretionary spend. So people don't have to spend it on coming to the theatre, as opposed to buying something specific that they need to buy for their house. So we've got to tap into that. This is going to be a treat. This is a trip for you. You're going to enjoy it. How do you put that across? The whole what's in it for me. And some of the time we're traveling down that road and just trying to do a sell, and having to pull the team back and say, hang on, let's tell people what's in it for them. Why do they want to buy our product?
What? So
as above going to the cinema, as above going to a restaurant,
and you're talking about if you start taking theatre, you can move it in two ways. Theatre, in my mind, it's the arts, but it's also kind of nighttime economy.
Absolutely.
And it's that discretionary things. What do we do in our spare time, and how do you make me think it's worth me doing anything in my spare time. It's a hard thing, especially after COVID, where everyone decided, well, I don't want to be, the last place I want to be is in a room full of people. Do you guys feel, I mean, we're well past it now, obviously, in some ways, but do you feel the industry is fully adjusted, or has it been changed forever? Or what's the sort of reading of someone on the inside of the industry? Because there was lots of headlines about, especially sort of stage crew, or, you know, in the arts, TV and various other things, lots of challenges in terms of getting paid and stuff like that. Where are we now? And where do we need to go next?
I mean, COVID kind of killed arts and theatre. We closed, and that was it. We had to close.
There's no option. You can't go and sit.
There was nothing. It was then
someone, yeah.
We're closed. Right, what can we do to take us through that time? And yeah, it has hit the industry in a big way because of it's actually in some ways it's been beneficial of like learning how can we be dynamic, what can we do to change, how
Be a bit more agile.
how can we shift things around and be able to move things forward from technologies to different ways of attracting audiences and approaching people. But it has still taken a long time. We're still almost recovered, and it's taken what 3 years since then. So we're kind of back on our feet. The audiences have changed because they have made decisions to either come or not go. There's still a small part of the audience who still are not comfortable coming, and they're never going to come back. So yeah, we have this big bucket with a big hole in it. So we need to kind of keep filling those.
Or find a different type of audience person.
Yeah. To come back. And the we know we have seen the type of audiences change, and this is again within our industry. It's quite good because we have got a lot of data around that type of audience within our CMS system. That's CRM. That's what.
I'm available for hire.
With our CRM system, so we could see the type of people and the frequency they're coming and why.
And how analytical are you guys getting on that? Because we are in an industry that's very I imagine I'm imagining unfairly, lots of people going, oh, this is wonderful, it's a lovely day. How, or are there really hard-nosed analytical people in there?
Oh my goodness, the devil's in the data. It's
you've been transformed.
Data decide do. We do. My team have got access to a lot of data, so we work in there every day. I'm straight into what is the behaviour like. So it really shows the audience behaviour and what they're leaning towards. We gather information across the industry. It's quite a nice industry.
And is it specialist from a CRM point of view? I know many of our listeners, they'll be running things like Salesforce or HubSpot. I know in the theatre industry there's very specialist bits of kit, and I understand that you're going through a bit of a digital transformation at the moment.
Yeah.
What does that tech stack look like in a theatre? So once you're done on your journey of digital transformation, and we just recorded an excellent conversation with unedited conversation with someone on digital transformation. So once it's out, I'll send it to you just in case there's teething things, but it is a challenge. Where are you trying to get to with that, and what's that stack look like?
We're looking at what, from a customer point of view, where are those pinch points? Where are the areas that we know there's, we haven't got things quite right there. So what can we do to change that? Let's step back and actually look at that whole process. I mean, it is going back to the very basics of let's look at a customer journey plan from start to finish, and then look at those points. We are about to drop in a product called Crowd Engage. Which will be meaningless outside the industry, but it's a ticketing thing which will allow digital tickets to come through. We'll be able to text you with your ticket. It comes that you click, oh, here's my ticket. It opens up into a little app, and within there you can also share your ticket with your friends or your family and send that off to them. And they'll have their ticket saved down to Apple Wallet. It's what is done, everywhere else. If we're going to the cinema, I would expect the same thing.
Yeah.
But also within there will be, you'll be able to pre-order your drinks prior to arriving at the venue. You'll be able to, if you're in the venue, you'll be able to pre-order your interval drinks within there.
And this all ties into your CRM and what they're ordering, how they're ordering, what each customer's worth.
Yeah, and it ties back because we know there's a frustration when you walk to a theatre. Where are the tickets?
Yes.
And you have queues of people. So relieving that pressure then just makes that part of that journey even better. And it's even better for our front of house team when they're getting the other side of it.
Does the data you pull from that and, say, the CRM information, do you use that to inform things like, if we take some more well-known for our listeners sort of tactics, programmatic advertising? Are you doing all of your, in terms of what you're actually spending your money on? You said the devil's in the data or the details in the data. Is it all driven from that position? And what does that look like for you?
It's driven by data. Interestingly, our marketing budgets haven't actually changed that much in.
I was going to say
10 years.
and comparatively to some of the people listening, they won't be big budgets.
No,
on these.
kind of uniquely in our industry, we for a presenting house and for the presenting the work that we do through the studios as well, we have a shared budget with the producer. So the producer contributes to the budget, and so do we. So we're spending the majority of their money as well as our money. So that's often hard for media buyers to get their heads around. In fact, well, why don't you just buy this space? Well, actually, we need to negotiate first. We know our local market really well. The producers and their agencies know the product. So it's like having that mix. And my team have to negotiate all the way through.
On each show.
Every single, I mean, there are agencies who look after many, many shows. So we get to know them and work with them. But then it's all very much focused on, I'm the producer. It's my show. And that's all I'm focused on. That's all I care about. We care about our audiences and our audiences across the area. So it's a unique way of having a product to sell, and then all the tax that we really put into place. I've been there long enough to see the growth of digital through our spend. Say we have £10,000-15,000 for a week-long show to advertise it.
It's all digital.
Yeah, it's now gone from we do. Let's do a Facebook advert. Let's put £100 behind that. To now we have programmatic advertising and all the Google ads. We utilize the not-for-profit. So you get a bunce from Google, don't you? You get a bung as a charity, I think. Within our email marketing, we segment the hell out of everything to
just try and
put the right message out
as
to the
least
right people.
wastage as possible.
Yeah.
I guess. So if we go back to my big cake of budget, the imaginary cake of budget, on a show like that, how is that getting split between sort of paid, earned, and owned? Like your effort. If you put your effort in as a team, and how many in your team that you're running?
Across both ends, I've got 13.
So there's 13 people. So you get your budget that you've got to spend on stuff, and you've got your time. If that was a big cake, what's the split between paid, earned, and owned activity, do you think? I've stumped you there. So how much effort are you spending on paid activity, which is the money going into it, but the earned is sort of the PR, where your background, from sort of PR and comms, and obviously those channels have changed and it's more social. And then the owned, how much effort goes into the website aspect of it? Is it a thirds, or do you have to use more earned?
We are generally thirds, but it depends on the product. It depends on the individual product. It depends. We can go from having a serious drama to a fully fledged musical to,
and you might have to push more on advertising on dance,
absolutely.
Or maybe the other way around. Dance there's a very fixed audience, so you're going to get them every time. Whereas filling Chitty Chitty Bang Bang for a really long run might take a lot more advertising.
Yeah, but the same amount of effort from the team can be the same for a one person show to selling Mary Poppins.
Okay.
So still the same amount of work. It's going to be varying budgets to spend and to utilize, but it's still a lot of effort for each individual show. And when you've got lots and lots in the program, they have to be very dynamic.
One thing I would be jealous of if I was sat here listening to you is that I would assume that if anyone's got so good social media content, surely a theatre full of creatives. I mean, is that gone through the roof in terms of what your team does? Do you work? I've seen stuff that where you work with the shows and as they rehearse.
It's grown and grown, and people love the behind the
behind-the-scenes
scenes
stuff is great,
that find out information about the actors, about the production, and there's
And can you measure it as a success? Can you see what that generates, or is it a bit of a quagmire? Or
no,
that?
we know when it's like we put a bit of marketing out and it worked. Shock horror. Yes, no, we put content out and then we can see sales off the back of that, or we can see engagements growing because we know that, because we're also feeding that for the people who have already purchased tickets as well as those. We want people to buy tickets because we want to keep that audience growing and coming back to us. We want frequency. We want more people to come more often to theatre. If I said to you, when's the last time you came to the theatre?
Go on then.
When was the last time you came to theatre?
It was to Mast for something. The last time, oh no, it was Lion King. I saw Lion King.
So quite often,
the elephant made me cry.
So quite often we'll have said, oh yeah, I come to the theatre all the time. When did you last come? Oh, it was 2 years ago. And
well, that's the problem with such a good experience.
Yeah.
It's still I mean, there is something in that. It's still salient. It's normalizing theatre must be the aim. Like making it, there was a time where that's what you did all the time. You went to there wasn't anything else. There's such a noisy world out there. Trying to make what you do just in my normal rhythm, it's a huge challenge you've got. I mean, it's a brilliant challenge and one worth working for.
It's a challenge,
but it's a big one.
Also, we can't be arrogant in the arts to say that everybody should come and see the arts because it's for everybody. Not everybody likes arts, and that's okay. It's the same as everybody should go to the football. We have between our venues almost 550,000 people coming to us over the year.
So it proves that some people
it's huge. Of our audiences, we know it's 80% will be the infrequent booker. 20% will be the ones who will be coming avid fans and coming in every week or every few months.
One of the things that long ago I heard, but it might be right, might be wrong, was when you drop that program, there's like most of your sales are done within a period of time, or a lot of the sales. Just so people understand what we're talking about there, can you explain the dynamic of when you release that year's activity and what sort of percentage of sales you might expect to generate from that and how that works?
Yeah, so you're talking about print.
Yeah, I remember way back, the print brochure was everything. Brochure. It gets sent through.
Oh my God! I mean, print nowadays. I mean, print is has so much more value now post-COVID. It is amazing the effect that print has.
Because nobody's doing it.
The whole thing of print's dying off, digital's going to take over. Yes, you can segment the hell out of something, but go back to print because people love touching things. People love the tactile. You love the sorry, as marketeers, does any marketeer out there smell print when it comes in?
Oh yeah.
Lovely. So we produce 3 What's On guides a year, and we coming out of COVID, we were the first venue in the country to put a brochure out because everyone was scared. No one's going to want to actually touch a brochure. And on that brochure, we personalised it. We said, Ed, welcome back. And we digitized the front, and the response that we had from customers of receiving that was
just that
overwhelming.
Simple moment of personal.
Yeah. And those
so
brochures.
What sort of percentage do you sell it off that versus through the year?
So we're into at least 10% of our box office sales off the back of a brochure,
just within the first drop of a few months or a month or so. So it's so important that and you. So you've gone to 3 now, so you get 3 hits of that sort of experience.
Yeah, we've had like 2, 3, depending on the year. And this year we tried something different. We went for 2 brochures and then went for a smaller leaflet, and we produced our first magazine. And we wanted to put out a magazine just to talk about what we do to show our impact in the city. So we went for an A4 lovely piece of workshop, which I'm pointing to at the moment, but no audio view.
You can hold it up to the camera,
which is very nice. Which has
very snazzy
Ashley Banjo on the cover, and it talks about it's not about the shows. It's the behind the scenes, talking about what we're having with our impact and how we're working with our partners, how we are how our participation is working, what's the experiences. It's all people stories. It's people stories. So it's people talking to people.
So you've got this, and you're painting such a good picture. And I think from a listener point of view, they'll really understand now how the dynamics work, and that we're really in an industry and in a marketing challenge and a business challenge where you still need those traditional relationship building pieces. You still value that print, if anything, more so. But the use of digital technology and social especially, that's transformational, especially when you're talking about impact on community, because you can actually start to reach, and the core of that, of course, is feeding more young people into the process. So just before we're coming towards the end, but that idea of that developing younger audiences, if there's people listening and they're trying to think about how do I start getting into the arts, I'm just suddenly, how can they here get involved with what the Mast are doing and what Mayflower's doing, and what advice would you give to people that are interested in doing what you do or getting into the arts more broadly?
So we have so many ways in, and we're talking with our engaged and participating teams about pathways into the industry, into touching arts. We have a youth theatre. We have production arts where people work behind the scenes and training, and then they work with the professionals as well. We have our summer youth projects, which this year was Bugsy Malone. There's 150 kids on the stage performing. We have our Christmas youth production this year, which is The Wind in the Willows. And in 2024, it's going to be, we're bringing back A Christmas Carol, which was so successful last year. 50 children on the stage performing. And you think, 50 kids on the stage, it's like a school play. They are kids performing at a professional level with all the professional artists that we bring to put the show on together. And it's people come and see the youth productions and think, oh, that's not quite what I thought it was going to be. It's just as good as going to see Greece, going to see Joseph.
Wow.
They're getting that level, that experience.
And that confidence that comes from that.
And the
standing on
kids,
the stage and
the kids who come through, it's not about being the very best actor or the very best singer. It's about their experience. What are they getting at? What are they getting at in terms of life skills, in terms of developing friendships and understanding, reading their scripts. How many kids now sit down with a book? It's I have a challenge with my own children of go and read a book, but they'll read a script or they'll see what's on the stage and then absorb the information that way.
I think especially, with someone with a 9-year-old, and luckily he loves reading books, but there's things he doesn't like doing. And I guess as a parent, parents will recognise those things. But I've always felt that the arts gives people an alternative route into things. And if you're not academic, and if you're not, for me, I hate it. I didn't like school, but I loved doing the art side of it, whether that was backstage or it just felt like community. So if you are listening and you're thinking about how you can get your kid off an Xbox and do something different, maybe give it a go. Go and find your local arts centre or theatre. We'll certainly put, if Robin, you give us all the notes, we'll put in the show notes how people could get involved with the Mayflower. But it is the lifeblood, new blood into it is what will keep it going. So that's probably the most important thing on that. I wanted to ask you why you still do it. I mean, you've done it for a long time. I mean, I've known you so what keeps you doing what you do?
Well, I love what I do. I said that at the head. But there are reasons why I still do what I do. There's the old story of, the John F. Kennedy walking into NASA and saying to the guy who's sweeping the floor, "What's your job?" He said, "Oh, I'm putting a man on the moon." Great, that engagement from someone on the shop floor, knowing what that vision is to do. I know that what I'm doing is providing an audience with an inspiring experience. It's our mission statement, but that's what we do. I've got somebody I know who's a teacher who was bringing their class to see a show last year. One of the kids in the school in the class, very severely autistic, lots of special educational needs, and they did a workshop before the show. and the teacher was trying to, having to spend some time out with the child who was not going to concentrate on anything. Normally in the classroom, there's disruption. They came in to watch the theatre to see the show, and she thought, okay, I'm going to be walking up and down the stairs, counting the stairs, or looking at the tiles across the floor whilst the rest of these class were watching the show. Yeah. They sat down, and as soon as the curtain went up, this child was transfixed and did not move through the whole performance. They came away, and he said, "Miss, that's the best day of my life so far."
Not many people can say they do a job that does that.
To have that, and then the parents come back saying, "We never thought we'd ever try going to the theatre because we never thought we'd be able to look after them in the theatre," and that they've gone since and enjoyed themselves. But to hear that, that's why we do what we do.
And I think that is the perfect note to leave this conversation on. Robin, thank you for joining us, and that is another unedited conversation.
Been a pleasure. Thank you.
That's a wrap on another episode of Unedited. Make sure to like, subscribe and turn on those notifications so you never miss an episode. Find all of our updates on your favourite social media and podcast platforms. Just search for the Unedited Podcast.